Thanks for joining me, Ron. Let's start with your experience as an endurance athlete because it's pretty wild. Tell us what that's looked like for you and how it's connected to other areas in your life.
Yeah, I mean, it probably sounds cooler than it is. It's literally just putting one foot in front of the other over and over, um, and not having enough brains to say stop. Um, it's just, I think for me, it's always just a test of my will, and it's just I fell in love with it. As you mentioned, I had started by doing triathlons, and I thought that was kind of unique. But I just really fell in love with specifically the trail running part of it. We were out in nature and even doing the road races was neat and tested, but I just was too worried about the watch, and getting out in nature is just so cool because you can just lose yourself and you really tap into a different side of you that you didn't even know was there. So to me, that's all endurance is. And endurance plays out in academics, endurance plays out in athletics, in our marriages, in raising children, in sticking with a career, in anything. And endurance running is just keeping going. That's the only way I look at it.
I heard you have an endurance tradition that you do every year on your birthday. What is it?
Yeah, I started, so 34, when I was 34 years old, that was 12 years ago. And geez, I just, I had done some marathons, and I just thought at that point I hadn't done an ultra before. And I thought it was a neat way. I was just kind of thinking, how can birthdays be special? Like at this point, I don't really care about cake. I didn't, it wasn't like a unique thing anymore. Yeah. And I wanted to celebrate it and think, how can I honor the years I've been given? Like I always admired people that have this gratitude about themselves, no matter how much money they made, no matter what kind of, where life was going, they had a different type of joy. And I'm like, to me, that's the best. And so that's all that was a chance to kind of think, okay, I can run a mile for every year I've been given, and have continued it. I've been doing it on average every other year. So I don't do it every year, but I do it about every other year since. I don't know how long I'll keep going, but.
What makes you go to what many people would consider extremes? Because running can be a challenging hobby, especially if you're training for a half or a full marathon, but you're going on 100-mile trail runs for fun. Like, where does that come from?
Yeah, just being broken and being tested. Like, it's the ultimate, humbling experience. Like you talk about humility. I just think that's another characteristics of people I love and admire, people that have this combination of hunger. They're like, I want to be the best I can be, the best I was created to be. And at the same time, this strong humility. And when you're out in nature, like if I'm going around Mount Rainier, or I'm going in the Grand Canyon, or I'm going out and just trails even out near my house, nature humbles me. I'm reminded constantly how just small I am. And that's a powerful thing, actually. But then being broken and bouncing back, realizing that what a second wind is, and realizing that we have a 30th wind, we have a 40th wind. Like you never stop being able to bounce back. But you can read that in a book, or you can actually test that principle and then really reinforce it.
Now, have you always been this way? Like, what was life like for you growing up and when you were a teenager? Who were you spending your time with?
I went to high school in a little island in Alaska. I was from Seattle area, went up there my junior and senior year where my dad got stationed. And then even when I came back, I mean, for me, I think there's stuff within, but to me, realizing I need to be around great people, because I'm no different than probably any of the viewers right now. Like we're the average of the small group that we associate with the most. My income is going to look like theirs, my habits, my eating, my nutrition, my physique. I'm probably going to be influenced that way. And so I'm going to be the average of the people and so that was the realization in high school, was like, I was not hanging around the best crowds, and I was not being the best. And so therefore I was falling short in a lot of things. And for me personally, it wasn't until I sold books when I was 19, my first summer with Southwestern, that was the first time I really got around a lot of people that were like driven and hungry and wanted to grow and just wanted to see what they could do and test themselves. And I just fed off of that. It was like, I found my people, and I haven't looked back.
What was school like? Were you really into your academics, or did you find yourself learning more outside of the classroom?
Good, but not great in terms of academics. And then I was playing 5 sports in Seattle, but when we moved to Alaska, they only had basketball or wrestling. And I'm 6'4" and skinny as heck, so I'm not a wrestler. So So I learned how to play some hoops,
Yeah.
and loved playing ball, and so played a lot of basketball after school, and but I also developed a lot of work ethic of just having jobs from a young kid, and that's something I'm thankful my parents passed on. Was, boy, if you want something, you got to earn it. Like my parents had a pretty strict rule in the house where it was not like, we don't just give you stuff, and they would chip in, they would help, but they would provide a means for me to earn it more than just handing it out. And that's something I look back, I'm so thankful they did that, because, and I hurt for people that don't have that. Like, that's one of the greatest gifts I can give my 3 kids now, is teaching them how to work versus just, so I had jobs since I was 11, 12, 13 years old, just mowing lawns, newspapers, you name it, and worked my butt off through high school to buy my own first car, pay 100% of my way through college. I mean, you name it. And that's something my parents helped me with.
Tell me a little more about the timeline of your work life. Like, where did it begin and how did it evolve?
Yeah, so specifically high school, landscaping, literally learned how to go approach people. Like, that was my first experience of just going to doors and saying, hey, I've got a business, actually developing a script of talking to families about the lawn mowing business I was doing. And then when we moved to Alaska, again, it was an island, so there wasn't a lot of jobs. So I was the head grill chef at McDonald's. I was the head grill trainer, though, so it's pretty impressive. And oh man, those are the main ones at high school: landscaping and McDonald's.
Were you thinking long term back then, or when did your perspective on work begin to change?
I wanted to have a good summer. I mean, I was pretty short-sighted, and I wasn't. I wish I had had more of a long-term mentality of like, okay, how is this specifically going to help me when I'm in my collegiate activities, when I'm getting into college, in college, and then beyond college. I'd like to think that, but I was pretty short-sighted. It was, how can I make the most money per hour, doing something that I kind of like, or that I don't hate it all day. But again, there were little bits where I started to realize, like, okay, principles or being around certain people that talked about work ethic or just were more positive. Obviously, working with people that are just kind of gloomy and negative and naysayers sucks. And so you start realizing, I don't want to work with those type of people. And that doesn't seem like a real big decision, but it is. So I'd rather do a job that, again, being around people that lift me up is a big deal.
Let's talk about who you spent your time with. In some places, we don't get to choose who we spend our time with, like a teammate or a coworker or a classmate. But in the times and places we do get to choose who we surround ourselves with, it makes all the difference in whether we're progressing or regressing. What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, exactly. And even thinking back now, I'm like, because hearing you say that, I now I can look back and say, okay, what am I doing too? Am I one of those people? First of all, like, let me not act like I'm immune to this. Am I one of those negative people that others are suffering by being around? And, everybody knows the old quote, be the change you wish to see in the world. Like, it begins with me. I got to look in the mirror and own my faults and my blame, my victim crap, just this toxic thinking that I had. I have to own that. I can't blame it on the people around me. So that was big too, is realizing, like, it's not just me being choosy about who are my friends and who am I going to associate with, but man, how can I be a good influence? How can I be someone that makes other lives better by affirming them and building them up and thanking them, and on and on and on.
When do you feel like you flipped the switch from having a job to having a career?
I think it began my first summer when I heard about Southwestern. I was going to landscape again for the summer. I'd started going to community college, was thinking about going to University of Washington or Seattle Pacific University, these schools. And I heard about a buddy that was going to sell educational books during the summer, and winging a prayer, might as well give it a shot. Went for the summer. And I think it wasn't until my second summer, though, where I really realized, like, this is big, because I get to, there's something about not having a boss and not having, but having good influences around me, but still having freedom and flexibility to do it your way and be yourself. I'm not being controlled. And I love that. And I love that, to me, I could bring other people with me. I could build a team, and I could actually learn how to be a leader. Like, I always felt like it'd be neat to leave a mark and leave an influence and leave a legacy and somehow, some way be a tiny part of other people's success. And that was like the first chance I really had to do that. Obviously we can do it in sports and we can do it in academics, but that was my first chance professionally to feel like, man, I'm really making a difference in someone else's life. And it sounds all Hallmark cardy, but it's real.
From what I understand, you personally coached, this was in your 20s, you personally coached over 600 people during that period of time. What was hard about that? What was rewarding? And what are some things you observed and learned?
Well, I think from early on and then even now, my own life, recruiting and hiring and developing coaches and then working with a lot of different leaders in different industries, whenever I feel anxiety, whenever I feel, oh, this pressure or what if I do, what if, it's because I'm focused on me. And it's junk, it's garbage. It's when I'm playing small. And unfortunately, I still do that. But I think the most pure form of leadership where you just have this unbridled fearlessness and this joy, like you said, is when you really own the fact that, hey, I'm just going to do my best. Like I'm not, this is not going to look perfect. I'm going to say things, I'm going to mess up. But man, my heart is in it. You got my best. And you can look someone in the eyes. And so for me, whether I was a 20-year-old, interviewing and hiring college students, or in my life now, same thing, just being transparent and honest and authentic and not trying to act like I'm something I'm not. When I'm being fake, it's just overwhelmingly, it's heavy. It's tiring. But when you're just being you and like, this is the best I can be, I'm going to be myself. That's freeing. It's fun.
Yeah. Leading by example while putting the best interests of others before your own is what it comes down to.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And as much as any of us would listen to what you just said and say, yep, and then we'd move on with our little tasks of the day, we all get dirty and need to take showers every day. So we need to be reminded of this constantly. Like as much as I can act like I got good at it in my 20s and 30s, and it's a never ending finish line. Like I'm never there. I have to daily and even multiple times a day check in, meditate, pray, walk, breathe, whatever you do, but somehow remind myself and recenter myself around that principle you just talked about. Because it's not like a snap done. It's a constant cleansing.
Let me ask you this. What are some dumb decisions that you made along the way that you look back on now and you laugh about?
Yeah, of course it's fun to be laughed at for other people, So if you're talking about self-deprecating, those are the best, right? I mean, you talk about falling on your face, man, trying to mismanage, trying to motivate people the way you're motivated and just being so humbled by it, right? So for me, my first team I ever brought out, I remember 5 students from my hometown. And I just thought I was an experienced manager now. They're going to just follow my lead. They're going to, I am now the wisdom, and they'll just appreciate all my wisdom I bestow upon them. And oh my gosh, 3 of them like literally turned on me within 2 weeks and told me you're like the worst leader I've ever been around. You're like a little, Nazi type leader, and I remember just being like, why are they not and I was just totally trying to motivate them the way I was motivated and not at all seeking to understand or not at all thinking about what's their vision or what are their goals. I was just pushing myself upon them. And man, that's just, I've learned that the hard way, unfortunately, numerous times.
Was a lot of it learning how to ask better questions?
Yeah. And then listening, really, truly listening, and then listening more. And listening more, because it just, again, and that's something even as a parent now with your kids. You talk about practicing that in real life. I'm sure the majority of the listeners here eventually want to have a family and they don't want to get married 7 times, so same stuff. It's like, it's not about me. It's one of my favorite affirmations. It's not about me. How can I take myself, my stupid ego out of this situation, my ridiculous pride, and push it away and make it about other people? That's so much more fun.
What's the leadership principle that resonates with you the most?
Yeah, I think the old adage of helping enough other people get what they want in life is the way you get what you want in life. And that to me is is probably the biggest that keeps me grounded. It's just, I had to realize this the hard way. All the trophies, all the personal little victories I fought so hard to get are now in boxes or have been given away or dumped by my wife. They're like gone because no one cared. And I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not saying don't go after that, because you learn a lot in the process. So go get all, but I just remember measuring, and my self-esteem came from that stuff. Unfortunately, my self-image came from that. And Zig Ziglar used to always say, you cannot act in a manner that is inconsistent with your self-image. You can fake it, you can try, but a human cannot authentically act in a manner that is inconsistent with their self-image. And I love that, and believing that the true way I'm going to get the things I want in life is by giving and helping others get it. It provides perspective through everything. And we're all in the pandemic, etc. Well, get used to it. Like it's not always a global pandemic, but there's personal pandemics happening in our lives all the time. And these are the things that help us get through those.
That's a good segue for my next question. I know emotional intelligence is a topic you like to coach on, and it's a big topic. So where do you like to begin?
Well, I just, when you brought that up, I just smile, because it's such a neat topic to get to talk about. And I hope everyone on here buys into this, because the four components of emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and then self-management, and then flipping it, social awareness, picking up on other people's emotions, and social management, influencing their emotions. It all starts with my own awareness. And the number one thing by far, I have to turn the stupid thing off. And I know a lot of people listening are like, what? How could I turn that off? It's like I'm speaking a different language. But I'm telling you, and I get goosebumps in this, that is the number one way. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about any and every coach and client I've worked with for a long time, and college student. But stillness. Like a lot of times I do those runs out in the mountains without something in my ears. I'm not saying that, or even when I'm driving, I definitely love listening to podcasts. I love music, but also knowing when I need 10 minutes of stillness and silence and quiet. Because what that allows me to do is audit my emotions that I'm feeling right now. There's always a smoothie going on inside of me of multiple emotions. And if I'm dealing with some guilt from yesterday, if I'm dealing with blame or some sort of shame or some sort of, that is funky. Like I'm nowhere near the human I could be at this. And so then self-management, right? It allows me to work on things to shift my emotion. I'm going to go out for a walk. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to pray. I'm going to literally have my arm out the window and just let go of this. I used to do this all the time when I would have my arm out the window and I would go like this. And it was just a funny little thing, and it worked, but it let go of all these weird feelings, and it was calming. And I just think if we can get our emotions reset, then that allows us to be sensitive to other people's emotions and actually empathetic and patient and which is how we help other people. So I think that topic is awesome.
There's a quote that says, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. What have you been reading and learning about lately?
One that I'm reading is called Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss. And I love it because what it is a book of about 100 small books. And each of the small books are the best of the best. So if people aren't aware of who Tim Ferriss is, he's done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of podcasts with top achievers, like the best of the best of whatever they do. And then he takes the best of each podcast, like a lot of times a 2-hour podcast, and he'll give it to you in 2 pages. And that's what this book is. And the book is all centered around healthy, wealthy, and wise. So the first part is all mental, physical, and emotional health, right? And then the second part is all driving financial freedom. So building long-term wealth, whether you use it for whatever you use it for. And then the third part is just learning, being this student of life and learning and gaining wisdom. So I love that. I'm reading that book right now. That's mainly it. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, but that's the main one I'm diving into right now.
Different topic, giving back. It's easy to make a donation to a charity that helps people on the other side of the world. and neglect to do anything locally. So what do you do to give back and to help improve the community that you live in?
What a cool topic. Well, one is there's a board I'm a part of, I'm on, called Liberty Road Foundation, which we are devoted to fundraising to support nine nonprofits around the greater Seattle area. So, for example, one of them is Olive Crest, which is Foster to Adopt. One is the homeless community of Seattle. One is youth that don't have enough money to be involved in athletic, sporting programs where this pays for it for them. And so, long story short, and then we can volunteer within each of those things. So it's not just raising the funds, but it's actually going and rolling up our sleeves and being in there, serving the food at the soup kitchen, or bringing food for them to have their foster care meeting that night, or whatever it is. And it's just the coolest thing, because who amongst us don't have places where we need help, right? We all do. And it's fun to be able to be helped, because that you're allowing someone else to give. Like, sometimes we are so prideful to not allow other people to help us, but then to also have a chance to give freely without expectation of return. So that's one I'm getting better at. I've not at all acted like that's something that's been a calling card, because I'm honestly very selfish with my time. I've devoted, my family, my running, my business, etc. But I'm trying to learn how to be more freely giving of time, not just money.
What's a personal goal that you're working on right now?
The business ones, I can go on and on. There's one, I don't know if I have it right here in front of me or not, but I literally just started, here it is. No, it's not great to step off camera. But man, it's funny because this seems like such a simple thing, but I've never journaled. So this is one right here. I actually just bought this sucker. It's called the 5-Minute Journal. So I have a goal, and I'll actually put up little things, like little challenges. This is a 21-day I just started. Here's an example of a 40-day challenge I've had in the past. So that's something for me, is just auditing. Maybe it's affirming my 3 kids. Maybe that's something where I'm like, you know what? I haven't been as outgoingly affectionate to my kids, or making sure my workouts are on point, making sure I'm not just eating sugar snacks, watching Netflix after 9 o'clock every night, or too many adult beverages or whatever. So we all have those kind of things. We can laugh, but every one of us has those. Yeah. And this is something where it's just kind of a cool goal that I'm working on, is being really hypersensitive to what are the ones that are helping me and what are the ones that are hurting me. And then the ones that are hurting me, obviously, putting a challenge to it. And that's one personal thing right there that I'm working on. And then the last goal is to help my kids adopt this, not force it on them, because that's, that never turns out well. But having this be something where they have a goal they're so excited about, and how they see this can help them lead to their goal, and so doing it as a team.
Who's a leader you feel like you're in the process of learning from right now?
Yeah, the head of the nonprofit I was talking about, John Damerel, is probably 70 to early 70s. He's a personal mentor for me, and it's mainly because he's got the Bible memorized back and forth. And this isn't about getting spiritual. This is about, for him, having scripture memorized, because we all can try to recreate the wheel so many times. For me, if my child is sick, or I'm going through something in my marriage, or I'm having a financial issue, there's so much power in historical evidence of how all the people we admire, all the Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Abe Lincoln, Winston Churchill, all these great people have had this and more, but they've been able to get through it. And so this particular person, John, I love, because he's rooted in history. He's rooted in biographies and actual evidence of history to back up all these principles. And so it's really convicting.
In addition to everything you've shared, you're also an author. Your book is called Redefining Possible. Share with us a few of the ideas you spotlight in your book.
Trying to just, I'm no different than any of us. We're trying to boil down, what am I really going after? Like, what is the point of all this? I think sometimes we wake up in the morning and it's just, I got to pay bills. I got to get a mortgage. I got to get a bigger house, or the car, or the whatever. And it's just this fascination of what is it that helps us make all that stuff meaningful, actually mean something. And so the book is just a culmination of principles that lead up to what matters most, which is impact, how much we lighten the burden of other humans, our fellow brothers and sisters. And so it goes deep into the strategies of, I get what I focus on, right? And then owning everything in my life, taking full responsibility, and it's going to allow me to have a clearer vision, right? So I'm going to get what I go after. I don't get what I do. I get what I think about or what I picture. And so, and then to get that, having a higher level of unconditional confidence with more of a sustainable belief is going to help me have stronger faith. So that way, when I get kicked in the teeth, when I have setbacks, when stuff doesn't go the way I hoped it would, that I have faith to bounce back quicker. And those 6 things lead to what's the culminating part of the book, which is what impact really looks like. And when you talk about true leadership and multiplying and being able to kind of spread it, that's what the whole thing's about. So, it's been so fun. It's been a lot harder than I thought. I just was like, oh yeah, just put some stuff in a chapter. It's just been fun though to study a lot of examples and realize the things we've gone through, that we can maybe share a little bit of. A lot of case studies, a lot of studying and sharing examples and specific strategies, not just warm fuzzies, but very specific strategies of what can help us have a clearer focus. Or let's say I want to eliminate distractions and be able to concentrate better, or have more of not a conditional confidence based off results, but more of an unconditional confidence based off of effort and attitude. Okay, that sounds cool, but how do I do that? So then it's case studies and strategies, stuff we've learned by falling on our faces, and then, let me try this a different way. And then stuff we've learned by watching other people that are leading companies, leading churches, leading movements, the leaders of leaders. That's what this comes from.
How have you seen a program like LEAD help people develop themselves as leaders?
Oh, well, I'd say a couple of things. One is you're going to be around like-minded people. So that just stokes healthy thoughts. Being around good people, and that's what LEAD's based off of, is just a collective group that are on a mission to grow and learn and give, working together. And so that to me, and then there's structure. You obviously have a system in place that is going for that. So the one thing I'd say is it takes coachability. Like that's one thing, I've heard it phrased as a teachability index. And when you study a human's ability to be taught or receive feedback, and so to get the most out of something like LEAD, it means coming into it with an open mind and an open heart, really buying in.
If present day Ron could give teenage Ron some advice, what would it be?
Well, I said it once. So I'd say 2 things. I did say it a little earlier when I talked about being so focused on my own results and my own trophies and all that, and realizing there's a lot of value in going after it, but there's so much more worth going after. And earlier on, like for example, I remember finishing the Eugene Marathon in Eugene, Oregon, around the track at the University of Oregon, which is like this Olympic hallowed ground. So many Olympians have come from there. And I remember the last part and I remember finishing, I was about 45 seconds off of my goal. And I remember just being devastated. I was just like, and I had people that drove hours to be there and cheer me, yay, let's go eat pizza now. You did it. You need to get all those calories back. And and I was just in a funky mood. I was just whiny. And it was just like, that is so ridiculous. And so not caring, so much about results. So in other words, the 4.0 or now again, don't get me wrong, fight to get the time, fight to get the 4.0, fight to get the result, the promotion, but at the same time, that's not going to define me. Realize that in long-term perspective, this was a gift. Everything that happens to me happened perfectly for that right reason. It was meant to humble me and be part of my story to make me better. It's just the lens of how we see things, realizing that things are in your favor, but having this belief that everything I'm dealt is actually for such a purposeful reason and for such this beauty in it. And so I remember not making varsity baseball the year I thought I was gonna, and just being like, oh, my life is over, and having a girlfriend, but and realizing, just having this piece of like, this grin that is just unshakable, that like, awesome, it's all part of the plan. And again, of course, so much easier said than done, but the job you didn't get, the promotion you didn't get, the class you didn't get into, the whatever, realizing perfect. You know, some of the greatest gifts in life are through the letdowns. And so that's just an overwhelming thought, you know, and something I'm trying to get better at.
Ron, this has been so good. Thank you. Are there any final thoughts you would share before we finish up?
If I can be the middle, so in other words, in life, if there's people you can be constantly learning from and quote getting from, like being mentored, being a student, and then at the same time giving to, and that's one thing I'm more and more recently thinking. Okay, am I getting enough of each? Are there enough people where I'm giving and just freely giving and helping and supporting and, you know, giving tips and being the coach? If a fifth grader teaches a fourth grader math, the fifth grader is actually learning the most because the coach gets the. And then are there people that are mentoring me? Do I have a variety of people giving me feedback that's motivational, educational, etc.? It's just fun to learn. It's just so cool being a student of the game and being a student of life and learning. And if you're around people that are just, if you're associating with a lot of people that have this arrogance or don't have a fun curiosity to learn, I'm not saying you disown them, but watch out. That stuff's contagious. And life is it's just not nearly as joyful when we're thinking that way. So getting around people that love learning and love giving back.
Yeah.
Southwestern Lead is an international leadership program that helps you build skills, gain confidence, and discover new opportunities. With professional coaching, a world-class digital learning platform, and certifications that will enhance your resume or application, Lead sets you apart. We'll show you how to turn success principles into success habits through small group training, one-on-one coaching, and guided action plans to help you apply what you're learning. It takes more than academics to reach your goals. See what one of America's oldest leadership training programs can do for you. Visit southwesternlead.com.